No one cares about you. Not in the way you imagine. Not in the way you hope. And while that sentence may sting when you first hear it, it is not an insult. It is not a condemnation. It is liberation. You see, the truth is that the world is not fixated on your failures, nor is it obsessed with your victories. People are far too absorbed in the endless storm of their own lives to carry your burdens or to cherish your dreams with the same weight that you do. And once you understand this, once you truly accept it, everything about the way you live begins to change. Think about it. How many times have you posted something online, convinced it would matter to people, only to find that the world moves on in minutes? Your celebration, your suffering, it all gets swallowed by the endless stream. A few comments here, a few likes there, and then silence. Everyone is pulled back into their own problems, their own fears, their own struggles. And for a moment you feel forgotten, invisible. But what if that's not a curse? What if that is the key to freedom? The Stoics saw this with perfect clarity. Seneca reminded us again and again that other people's opinions are fleeting shadows, not foundations to build your life upon. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote bluntly that people will soon forget you, just as you have forgotten countless others who came before. Even those who seemed great, even those who filled the world with noise, are now dust. Their applause has faded, their names are whispers, and time marches on without mercy. If that is true for emperors, why would it be any different for you and me? It sounds harsh, yes, but ask yourself, why do we cling so desperately to the illusion that people care? Why do we spend so much of our precious life hoping to be understood, praised, noticed, admired? From childhood, we were trained to look outward for approval. Parents rewarded us, teachers judged us, friends validated us. And so we grow into adults who still carry the same hunger, the desire for others to tell us that we matter. But here's the reality. Most people do not have the time or energy to dwell on you. They're barely surviving themselves. Their attention is fragmented, their hearts are occupied, and their minds are stormed with their own troubles. And if you could see inside their thoughts, you'd realize just how little of their life is dedicated to you. They do not lie awake at night, replaying your mistakes. They do not spend hours rehearsing your victories. They may cheer or pity you for a moment, but just as quickly, they return to their own struggles. To believe otherwise is vanity. To accept the truth is humility. Seneca once said, "We are always complaining that our days are few, and acting as though there would be no end of them. People do not even have enough time for their own lives. How could they possibly dedicate their lives to yours?" And that is not cruelty, it is simply the way things are. Everyone carries the weight of their own existence, and that weight leaves little room to carry yours. At first you may feel abandoned by this truth, but let me suggest something different. Maybe it is not abandonment at all. Maybe it is a gift. Imagine if the world really did care about every little lit you did. Imagine if every stumble, every mistake, every weakness was etched permanently in the memory of others. Imagine if every poor choice was replayed endlessly in the minds of those around you. Would that be freedom, or would it be torment? The truth that no one cares frees you from the chains of their expectations. It releases you from the need to perform for an audience that is not even watching. It allows you to step outside the spotlight of imagined adamant and into the quiet space where true growth begins. You are no longer a prisoner of applause or ridicule. You are free to act, not for recognition, but for what is right, not for validation, but for virtue. Look around the world. You will see people enslaved to opinion, desperate for attention, addicted to validation. They cannot breathe unless someone tells them they are enough. They cannot move unless someone assures them it will be doubt. And yet, the people they're chasing are not even paying attention. A fleeting like, a quick scroll, a half-hearted cheer, and then gone. The chains are heavy, and they are invisible. But most people wear them willingly. But not you. Not anymore. Because once you realize this simple truth, that no one cares, you can put down the chains. You can stop begging for recognition and begin walking your path with steady steps. You stop waiting for the world to notice, and you begin noticing yourself, and that is where the transformation begins. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, consider how quickly all things are dissolved and resolved. Things are fleeting and changeable, and they belong to oblivion. Your victories, your losses, your reputation, they all belong to oblivion. If they will vanish anyway, why waste your soul in obsession over them? Why waste your mind worrying about the gaze of people who will forget you the moment their own troubles arrive at their doorstep? This realization should not sadden you. It should harden you. It should prepare you. Because when no one else carries your burden, you become stronger carrying it yourself. When no one else feeds your confidence, you learn to feed it with discipline and virtue. And when no one else cheers for you, you discover the quiet power of self-respect. This is the harsh truth nobody wants to admit. The world is not waiting for your success, nor does it linger on your failures. The world moves on, and so should you. But here lies the paradox. The more you stop demanding that others care, the more authentic connections you begin to form, because now you no longer approach people with neediness or desperation. You no longer cling to them for identity. You stand as someone complete within yourself. And only then can you truly give without expectation. Only then can you love without chains. Only then can you live in harmony with the flow of nature, instead of in conflict with it. So let us embrace the truth. No one cares, not in the way you hope, not in the way you fear, and that is the best news you will ever receive. For the first time you are free. Free to live, free to fail, free to succeed, and free to walk through this world without begging for its gaze. This is not cruelty. This is not loneliness. This is power. When you first accept that no one truly cares, your instinct is to recoil. You feel a chill, a sense of isolation, as if the ground beneath your feet has been pulled away. But sit with it a little longer, and you'll realize that this is not emptiness. It is space, space to breathe, space to live, space to walk without chains. Because once the need for others to care is gone, you are no longer trapped by their opinions. You no longer need to shape your life into a performance for their applause. You can finally begin to live in alignment with your own values, not the shifting winds of the crowd. Think about the countless hours people waste worrying about what others think. They twist themselves into shapes to be liked, to be admired, to be noticed. They silence their own voice. They betray their own instincts, all for the faint hope of approval that may never come, or if it comes, will vanish just as quickly. How exhausting it is to live for an audience that is not even watching. How fragile it is to build your life upon the sand of external validation. The Stoics warned us about this fragility. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the opinions of others are neither stable nor enduring. He wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Isn't that strange? You love yourself most, and yet you doubt your own voice while chasing the fleeting voices of others. What if you reversed it? What if you trusted your own judgment more than the echo of the crowd?" This is where freedom begins. The moment you stop seeking constant reassurance, you find stability. The moment you stop chasing after recognition, you discover peace, because suddenly, the harsh judgment of others no longer has the power to wound you. Their laughter, their scorn, their indifference, it loses its sharpness. Why? Because you never expected them to care in the first place. And with that freedom, a new strength arises. You can walk into a room without worrying who notices you. You can take risks without trembling at the thought of ridicule. You can pursue goals not because others will clap, but because they matter to you. You become dangerous in the best way, untouchable, unshakable, independent. For the one who does not need applause is the one who cannot be controlled. This is why the Stoics placed so much emphasis on self-mastery. For if you rely on others to feed your sense of worth, you will always be enslaved to their attention. But if you build that worth within yourself, you are free. You are free to act justly, even if no one praises you. You are free to endure hardship, even if no one pities you. You are free to pursue excellence, even if no one notices. And this, paradoxically, is when people begin to notice. Not because you begged for their attention, but because true strength radiates quietly, irresistibly. Most people are too afraid to live this way. They cling to the crowd, terrified of being overlooked. They measure their lives in likes, in compliments, in applause. But the crowd is fickle. Today they cheer, tomorrow they jeer, and the next day they forget. To live for such a crowd is to live in perpetual chains. And yet, to step away from that crowd, to stop demanding their care, is to step into freedom. This freedom does not mean you stop caring for others. Quite the opposite. It means you can finally love without desperation. You can finally give without expectation. When you are not enslaved to whether people notice you, can serve them genuinely, you can show kindness, not for recognition, but because kindness itself is good. You can speak truth, not to be admired, but because truth itself matters. This is what the Stoics meant by virtue. It is action for its own sake, not for the shallow reward of applause. Seneca said, "He who seeks wisdom is not wise. He who thinks he has found it is not wise. He who is content with what he has is wise." Replace the word wisdom with approval, and the lesson is the same. He who endlessly seeks approval will never find peace, but the one who ceases to crave it is already free. And in that freedom, life transforms. Now, how do we make this truth not just an idea, but a daily practice? How do we take the knowledge that no one cares and turn it into a way of living that liberates us? This is where Stoic discipline comes in. Philosophy is not just a theory, it is training, practice, repetition. To internalize this mindset, you must exercise it, just as you exercise a muscle. The first practice is journaling. The Stoics wrote to themselves as a way of sharpening the mind, as a way of exposing their hidden fears and illusions. Each morning or evening, write down the thoughts that chase you. Ask yourself, why do I care if others notice this? Why do I crave their recognition? What will happen if they never give it? When you put these fears on paper, you strip them of their power. You see them for what they are. Illusion. The second practice is voluntary discomfort. The Stoics advised us to deliberately step into situations where comfort and praise are absent. Sleep on the floor, eat simple food, walk alone without telling anyone. Do this not to punish yourself, but to remind yourself. You do not need comfort, and you do not need applause. You are enough without them. Seneca recommended this often: to dress plainly, to live simply, to expose yourself to indifference, so that when it arrives naturally, you are already strong. Another practice is what Marcus Aurelius called the view from above. Each day, imagine your life from a higher perspective. Picture the vastness of the earth, the endless stars, the generations before and after you. Ask yourself, will anyone truly remember my embarrassment today? Will my little victories echo for centuries, or will it all dissolve into silence? From this height, the craving for attention seems ridiculous, even laughable. What once seemed urgent, the need for people to care, becomes a small, fleeting concern. And then there is amor fati, the love of fate. Instead of resisting the truth that no one cares, embrace it, love it, make it your companion. When people overlook you, smile. When they ignore your success, Nod quietly. When they move on from your pain, accept it with calm. For this is nature. This is how life works. And by loving it, you stop fighting against the current and begin to flow with it. Lastly, meditate on impermanence. Remember daily that both praise and criticism vanish quickly. The person who insults you today will forget tomorrow. The one who applauds you this week will have moved on by next month. Even the most glorious fame erodes with time. The emperors, the conquerors, the thinkers, all of them are dust. If they could not preserve eternal recognition, how could you? And if their names now rest in silence, why should you burden your soul with the pursuit of applause? Through these practices, you begin to internalize the truth. You stop clinging to the illusion that people care, and you start finding strength within yourself. Slowly, the fear of being overlooked dissolves. Slowly, the craving for recognition fades. In its place grows resilience, courage, calm, and then something beautiful happens. You realize that you have always been free. You just did not know it. You were like a prisoner sitting in a cell with the door unlocked, too afraid to push it open. But now, by accepting that no one cares, you step out. You breathe the air of independence. You live not for the crowd, but for yourself, for virtue, for truth. And that, the Stoics would say, is the only life worth living. When you finally let go of the need for others to care, life begins to transform in ways you could not have imagined. The chains fall quietly, almost without notice, and suddenly you move differently through the world. What once terrified you no longer has power. What once weighed you down becomes light. You begin to see that so much of your suffering came not from life itself, but from the way you demanded that others notice your pain, share your burdens, applaud your victories. The moment you stop demanding it, the suffering lessens. Hardship no longer feels like a spectacle you must perform for sympathy. You stop rehearsing the stories of your struggles, waiting for someone to validate you. Instead, you endure them with calm dignity, because you no one else can carry this weight for you. And in accepting that, you carry it with more strength. This is resilience, not the brittle strength that depends on encouragement, but the quiet strength of self-reliance. And when success comes, you no longer spoil it by begging for recognition. You no longer need to shout your triumphs into the void, hoping for echoes. You enjoy them for what they are: signs of growth, rewards of discipline, milestones along the path. And because you are not obsessed with applause, you are free to move on quickly, to build again, to grow further. Success ceases to be a performance. It becomes a private contract between you and your effort. Your relationships change as well. When you no longer cling to people for validation, you stop suffocating them with your need. You stop demanding that they constantly prove their care. Instead, you give freely. Expectation. You can love without chains, because you do not need the other person to fill a void inside you. You are whole already, and that wholeness makes your presence lighter, more genuine, more powerful. People are drawn to those who do not demand, but simply give. Even your work transforms. No longer do you chase recognition from bosses, from peers, from strangers. You do the work for its own sake, for the joy of mastery, for the discipline it cultivates. And paradoxically, this is when your work often becomes more recognized, because true excellence is magnetic. It cannot be hidden forever. But here's the key. You no longer care if it is hidden. You are content either way. Most of all, you find inner peace. The endless storm of comparison, of craving, of disappointment begins to quiet. You wake up not asking, who will notice me today, but instead asking, what is the right thing to do today? And that shift changes everything. Your days are no longer wasted chasing shadows. They are lived with purpose, with calm, with clarity. This is the gift Stoicism offers. freedom from the illusions of the crowd, and the strength to live in harmony with yourself. It is not a cold philosophy as some think. It is not a denial of love or connection. It is a recentering of love upon what is true and lasting, instead of upon the fickle winds of opinion. For what good is the love of a crowd that forgets you tomorrow? What good is the praise of people who are themselves lost? No, the only solid ground is within yourself, and from that ground you can build a life worth living. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The same is true for recognition. It is not the man who receives little attention who is poor. It is the man who craves it endlessly. For he will never be satisfied, no matter how much is given. But the one who ceases to crave it, the one who accepts that no one cares, he is free. He is rich. He is unshakable. So when you walk through life, remember this. People will cheer for a moment, then forget. They will pity for a moment, then move on. They will notice briefly, then turn back to themselves. And that is how it should be. For they, like you, are trapped in their own battles, their own storms. Do not resent them for it. Do not expect from them what they cannot give. Instead, take this truth as a gift and live accordingly. When you stop demanding that the world care, you discover something unexpected. You begin to care for yourself. You begin to notice your own progress, to respect your own effort, to honor your own path. And you do, the opinions of others lose their sharpness. Their silence no longer wounds. Their indifference no longer breaks you, for you no longer need them. This is the turning point. This is when everything changes. You step out of the prison of attention and into the freedom of virtue. You no longer ask who cares, because you know the answer, no one. And instead of despair, you find strength. You stop waiting to be noticed, and you start noticing yourself. You stop waiting to be understood, and you start understanding life. So carry this truth with you. No one cares. Not in the way you want. Not in the way you fear. And because of that, you are free. Free to act justly. Free to love with courage. Free to walk through life without the heavy burden of imagined judgment. This is not loneliness. It is liberation. This is not abandonment. It is strength. And if you embrace it fully, you will see that the world was never against you. It was simply indifferent. And in that indifference lies the space for you to become what you were always meant to be. So walk forward now, with calm, with courage, with dignity. Do not wait for the world to care. Care for yourself. Live with virtue, and let the silence of others become the soil in which your strength grows. Because when you stop begging the world to notice you, you finally notice yourself. And that is where everything changes. If these words resonate with you, if you feel the pull of Stoic wisdom guiding you toward a freer, stronger life, stay with us. Subscribe, so that this timeless philosophy can continue to remind you of the truths that matter, the truths that free. Let us walk this path together, not for applause, not for recognition, but for the sake of living wisely, bravely, and fully.